So as always, I would like to thank OSHA once again for providing this presentation, the pictures and PowerPoint and all these materials for us to review, to criticize, and to learn from. And for those of you who are interested in getting some materials for yourself, OSHA provides many valuable resources on their website at osha.gov, or that is osha.gov. With that appreciation stated, let's go ahead and look at some caught in or caught between hazards. So what do we see here? Well, we see an individual working in what looks to be a trench by definition, and there is a heavy boulder there, and what was done was we put a couple of logs or lumber there to hold up that boulder from falling into place. And those of you who are realistic in evaluating this particular scenario, I don't think you're going to find that the logs holding that boulder in place are going to be very effective. If that boulder wants to fall, it's going to fall. Let's look at the OSHA commentary for a moment. OSHA says there's a potential crushing hazard from the overhead boulder. Absolutely true. And because this excavation or trench is deeper than 4 feet, we need to have some kind of protective system like a trench box or trench shield, as they call it in OSHA terms, maybe sloping or benching, shoring. Those are some other types of protective systems we can look at for excavations and trenches. We don't see any of that, so the employer would be very remiss in this particular scenario, and this employee is working in a very, very dangerous condition. What hazards do you see here? Well, it kind of goes back to that fun question we asked as children. What weighs more, a ton of bricks or a ton of feathers? In the end, we find as adults, well, a ton is a ton is a ton. So whether or not this is foam sheets or foam panels, whatever they may be, we still see a forklift, and it's got a load, and we've got some other stacked materials, and we have 2 employees between the forklift load and the stacked materials, thereby creating a caught in or caught between hazard in terms that would be dangerous to an employee's safety and health. OSHA's commentary is pretty simple on this one. Caught in hazards occur when a worker could be caught inside of or in between different objects. Again, notice that language. OSHA is looking at the potential hazards. Again, you'll hear me say that. You'll hear other safety professionals say that. You'll hear OSHA say that. We're always evaluating potential. And we're moving on. This is a very interesting hazard to me because I see machine guarding problems all the time. In fact, I think machine guarding issues are probably a lot more common than what most of us realize in the safety profession. So we have a couple issues here. What you see is we have a pulley, and it's operating basically a circular saw, and the pulley system's attached to a motor, and the motor kind of moves everything around in a typical system. But what we have here are what's called in-running nip points. And a lot of amputations have occurred because we have these in-running nip points where a finger or arm or something like that, it's usually a hand injury, like your fingers, your wrist, something like that. But they get caught in these in-running nip points. When machinery moves, it severs the finger, the hand, whatever the case may be, and we end up with an amputation problem. So these kind of scenarios require a guard to go over that particular system, which we do not see. And let's look at the OSHA commentary here. Unguarded belt and pulley, which is absolutely true, and the worker can get a hand and or clothing caught in an in-running nip point. So if you look at where the belt meets the pulley, you can see that it's easily an individual can easily get a finger or something caught into that. Loose clothing can get caught into rotating machinery. It's all around very dangerous. And then a side point here, we see an air purifying respirator there. That's improper storage of a respirator, and that respirator should probably be put in a better storage place. So that's just me making another a side kind of observation. Let's move on. This looks fun. Why would you want to put your hand in such a position? We see it all the time. When I say we see it all the time, we see the different various places we can put our hands. But why would you put your hand in this particular spot? I don't get it. Let's look at the Osha Commentary. Gloves, long sleeve shirts, jewelry, or loose-fitting clothing can be hazardous if caught in moving parts. Absolutely true. So that's a note for those of you who work around machinery, especially rotating machinery. If you work around rotating machinery, don't wear loose clothing. Take your rings off. Don't wear watches. Just these kind of things have been known to lead to significant safety problems. Typically, they are amputations, fractures, and then just a whole wide array of caught in or caught between hazards. I'll let your imagination take it from here, and we're moving on. Alright, got lots of issues here again. You may recall that when our trench or excavation is deeper than 4 feet, we are required to have some kind of protective system in place. So that could be usually one of 3 things. It could be a trench shield, which are known as trench boxes. It could be shoring or sloping, and sometimes we have benching. And we have to evaluate what type of soil we are dealing with in order to create the best protective system by design. But I'll save that for a different lecture. So moving on here, we see that there's a ladder. It's upside down. We see the spoils from the backhoe there, way too close to the sidewall of this trench. We got to keep that back at least 2 feet. We've got quite a few issues, but let's look at the Osha Commentary. So we have a worker in an unprotected vertical wall trench doing pipe work, and he is exposed to being totally engulfed by the trench if it collapses. That is absolutely true. We call them cave-ins in the safety profession. They are very dangerous. They happen without warning, and they often lead to significant employee injury. I want you to think about how heavy dirt is, and imagine being engulfed by that heavy dirt. It has been known to create a situation where many people die, and if they don't die, they are significantly injured. So, furthermore, we have some other OSHA comments here. It's next to a residential structure. We have no protective systems in use, going back to a trench box, sloping, shoring, things like that. And we have a ladder at the end of the trench, and I'll make a note here too, that ladder is upside down. The other note that I'll make is OSHA requires employees to have an egress or a point of egress, a way out, in other words, every 25 feet. We'd have to get a measuring tape there, but I think it'd be worthy of consideration. To make sure that this employee has a way out within 25 feet. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. This one is absolutely ridiculous. It is asinine. I don't know why anyone would do that, because these kind of dump trucks are typically held up by hydraulics. Anyone that's ever worked around hydraulics knows that hydraulics fail. They fail frequently. They have to be maintained all the time. And to put your life in the hands of hydraulic equipment is not the best idea. And we see that an employee is actually conducting work in such a fashion. Not recommended. Let's look at the Osha Commentary. The truck box is not blocked. Absolutely. Think about what a blocked truck box could do and how that could potentially help save an individual should there be some kind of hydraulic failure. And do not work between the frame and dump box of a dump truck. Absolutely true. I agree. Maybe there's a better way to do this. I'm not sure that this way is the best, but I'll leave it to you and your imagination to think about a better way to get this job done. Here we have an employee literally between a bulldozer and concrete. And I don't think this is the best position. This one's rather self-explanatory. We have a definitive caught in or caught between hazard here. This one almost looks staged, but I can't make this up. So this is OSHA's picture. So let's look at their commentary. We have an employee that could be caught between the track of a dozer and a wall. I agree. Very dangerous, very bad position, and this should be avoided at all times. So if you're working like this, change your ways. Totally dangerous. And I think this brings us to our last picture here. We have scaffolding that has been obviously staged on uneven ground in an inappropriate way. So let's look at the OSHA commentary. We have unstable footing on scaffolds by using a concrete block. Now I know many of you are probably chuckling over this one as well because, let's face it, this is so common. We see people using all kinds of different methods and materials to stabilize scaffolding. And we must remain cognizant and inspect scaffolding prior to getting onto it because this could actually be quite dangerous for anyone that wants to use the scaffolding. So keep that in mind. And we are going to wrap up now.